Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ruchin Kumar, and I am working in the field of security since last few years, and have been participated in deploying security. When I am talking about security, we have been working for the data-centric security and not the parametric or the, you can say, for the security which is basically stopping the intruders to intrude inside the networks. So we are not into IDS, IPS. We are basically have a belief that confidentiality, integrity, accessibility at the very start or at the very beginning of the data life cycle should be there to ensure that even if somebody has hacked the data, has got intrusion, has intruded successfully in the networks, should get only the garbage, not the meaningful data. The previous speaker has made my presentation more meaningful, because what I have seen in my personal reading of the CCTNS application, there are very good ways of, they have implemented good ways to ensure integrity, non-repudiation and confidentiality of the data. So if a report is lodged in the name of RAM, nobody can change and can make it sham in the way while it is in transit. So integrity and non-repudiation is there. The person who is registering that report will have to digitally sign it. It will go through the wire, nobody can change it, so integrity is there, and while it is restored in the archives for some amount of time, which is required in regulation, nobody can read it, no unauthorized person can read it, so confidentiality is there. When we talk about cloud, yes, we have seen that security is a major concern for organizations to move in the cloud. When we have recently done a survey with large organizations and asked them that have they considered cloud for their critical applications, they say no. All they have done is virtualization, which is a sort of private cloud environment where they have consolidated the data at some central place. So virtualization has become an important part of the complete cloud infrastructure. If we see the traditional architecture where the application and operating systems were hosted on the dedicated hardware servers, now the multiple applications and OS can be ported with the help of virtualization applications on single or consolidated hardwares. So it has reduced cost. It has bring high availability in the system. Infrastructure optimization, infrastructure automation, client virtualization, mobility has increased. I can move anywhere and still can access my data. Software lifecycle management, intellectual infrastructure, secured computing and applications. I have to pay less for the licenses of different applications. I have control over the data at central location. I have consolidated most of my important resources and have reduced cost in terms of power consumption, in terms of server procurements, and all that stuff. Like I said earlier, the most important concern is security, and it has topped the list. It is coming even higher than, the concern is higher than availability and performance. When I talk about security risk, there are technology concerns, like there are no physical parameters. How to ensure that the person who is accessing the data in the cloud is the right person or not? How do I ensure federated identities? I have to use hypervisors now. These hypervisors are newer to this, you can say, to our environment, and not much of vulnerability testing has been done on these applications. Distributed storage, how to handle the network, VPN, and inter-cloud communication. What about the software platform maturity? So these are the technology concerns, and if I see from the data governance, There are some compliance issues in porting my confidential information. In the case of government institutions, they have shown great concerns in porting any kind of personal identifiable information on the cloud, even on the private cloud. There are some legal issues, audit and reporting. The visibility of data becomes the visibility is becoming quite complex. There are change control requirements which has to be there. And what about SLA? So what points should be covered under SLA when I am hosting my data on the cloud? From the service provider's point of view, what SLA I should sign with the customer, so that in any kind of security event, I should not be held responsible for the fraud which has been done by the client itself. So if we see that the different third-party bodies, organizations, or the research organizations, they have come out with a view that encryption is the fundamental technology for realizing cloud security. In the multi-tenant environment where multiple people will be hosting their data at the centralized location, how can I ensure the granularity, or how can I segregate the data on the basis of organizations? So probably if I can encrypt the data and I can keep the control of that encryption with the different organizations, I can do that segregation. Now encryption has been recognized universally by analysts and experts, and underlying control for cloud data sets a high watermark for demonstrating regulatory compliance adherence for data. So by encrypting the data at its very core, at the time while it is getting created, it brings a lot of compliances. So this can be counted as a best practice to protect the data, and it is automatically bringing many of the compliances along with it. We can see that many of the mandates, regulations, laws has been created to provide privacy to the data by encrypting it, by you can say by modifying it in unreadable format so that it is available only to the genuine users. There are, in financial segment, there are PCI DSS compliance. We have our IT Act 2000, Amendment 2008. We have new IT rules 2011, which talks about integrity, confidentiality, and accessibility of the data. There are ISO frameworks which almost every new project is following, and the other laws in the other part of the world. So there are external mandates which are coming from government, regional, industry mandates, which the laws are also defining penalties and best practices. Then organizations or the government departments are having internal mandates which is securing their core intellectual property, insider abuse concerns, and crusader abuses like WikiLeaks. This is the section 43A of Amendments 2008, which talks about that if any body corporate possessing, dealing, or handling any sensitive personal data or information in a computer resources it owns cannot protect that data, it will be liable for some penalties in the so some financial penalties can come to the organization, and there is a huge loss of reputation for the department as well. Now, when we are hosting the data at a cloud service provider's premises, whether it is an internal cloud service provider in our internal organization, which is forming a private cloud, or we are taking services from a third party as an public cloud, there can be threads that a user can authenticate into the system, and once he can spoof the identity, he can get into the system, he can share you can say he can compromise the data which is stored in the clouds. So we need to ensure that there should be a strong authentication while to ensure that only genuine users can come into the system. To ensure it, there are instruments like multi-factor authentication. So multi-factor authentication in terms of one-time passwords, some soft tokens, which can be generated, you can say, on the basis of the events or on the basis of the time. In our IT Act, they talk about PKI authentication, which has been given legal status and has been, like any document which has been digitally signed, can be produced as a legal evidence in the court of law. So any user which is coming to the cloud, which is trying to access any application, should have extra factor authentication apart from username and passwords. Then the cloud environment, which depends on virtualization, has two components again, which there are virtual instances running with the end user, and then there are volumes which are running in the data center. So we have to ensure that the data which is residing in the volumes at the data center is safe, cannot be compromised by the people who are managing the data, by the system admins, by the DBAs. So data should always reside in a very confidential way, should always reside encrypted. While it is in transit and coming to the end user, to the genuine users, it is safe. There is a proper channel to bring it to the end users, and while it is accessible on the endpoints at the virtual instances, proper authentication should be there. There should be proper way that he cannot copy the data which he is not supposed to, or he is not misusing it by copying it to some unauthorized location. Then, as PKI has become the part of all the projects because of some, you can say, because it has been given legal status to provide integrity and non-repudiation in our country, how we will ensure that we can digitally sign the data while the data is residing in the clouds, or how we will ensure that the key material which we have, either in the USB tokens or on our computer, can be used. Either we will have to bring the complete data to our site to digitally sign it, or we will have to send the keys to the data center again to sign the data. In both if we are bringing the data to the customer, it brings a lot of delay in the system, and if we are sending the keys, it will completely induce the vulnerabilities in the system. So we have to look at you can say a better way of doing key management, so that we can follow the PKI the way it is, and still we can manage all those keys in a secure way. So we have to think about key management solutions which is centralized, still controlled by the key owners. The keys which are residing in silos, in file servers, application and web servers, databases, mainframes, those can be brought at a central location, can always reside at the data owner's custody or in the data owner's premises. So a cloud is like a solution which we can correlate with the lockers in our general life, where we are keeping our valuables, still we are keeping the key in our own custody. So nobody can take out the valuables from the locker because we are having the control of the keys with ourselves. In SafeNet, we are helping financial organizations in moving, in digitally signing the financial transactions and encrypting those financial transactions. We are helping managing the digital identities in the form of PKI in digital certificates, and we are encrypting most of the classified information in the important institutions. We are one of the oldest security company and works completely into the field of encryption and authentication, formed in 1983, and have the largest chunk of encryption engineers with us. Thank you very much. I am available